Hello and welcome to another episode of Strange Stories. Victorian England, early Victorian England. The year is 1837 and Queen Victoria has just come to the throne. And in the autumn of that year, in southwest London, strange rumours begin to circulate of a mysterious figure, an apparition, who would harass passers-by, particularly people crossing Barnes Common after dark. The figure was variously described as a wraith, as a ghost, as an imp, or a devil. But in each case, witnesses described the figure leaping into the air, high into the air with superhuman bounds, jumping many times higher and further than any human being could possibly manage. Now, at first, these were just rumours and most people didn't take much notice of them. That was until one particularly well publicised attack took place in February of 1838. This attack concerned a young woman called Jane Alsop. So Jane was young, she was pretty, she lived with her two sisters and their father in a street called Berehind Lane in southwest London. She had heard the rumours, the stories about Spring-Heeled Jack, as people were starting to call him, but she didn't really believe these stories. She was a level-headed, down-to-earth kind of girl, and she didn't really believe these stories or take much notice of them. That was until one night when there was a violent knocking on her front door. Jane went to answer it, and she saw in the shadows a man standing near the front gate. The man called out, "I'm a police officer. For God's sake, bring me a light. We've caught Spring-Heeled Jack in the lane." In a rush of excitement, Jane dashed to fetch a candle, and she ran outside to hand it to the man who claimed to be a policeman. But as she did so, he suddenly grabbed her by the neck, and he pinned her head under his arm, and he started to claw at her face and at her clothes, and he ripped her dress. Jane screamed and she fought back, and she managed to break free, but she'd only run a few steps back towards the front door when the man caught her again, and once again started to claw at her face and neck. Fortunately, Jane's sister, who had heard the commotion, came running out, and as she did so, the mysterious figure bounded into the air with a mighty leap and disappeared from view. Now, at first glance, this kind of has the appearance of perhaps an attempted sexual assault, an attempted rape, particularly the tearing of clothing. And maybe we could put it down to that. We could say it was a would-be assailant simply using the Spring-Heeled Jack cover story to lure his intended victim out into the open before attacking her. But that explanation doesn't really tally with the description given by the two sisters. So first of all, they both were in agreement that the figure had jumped into the air with a leap that no human being would be capable of and disappeared. And also the description of the figure given by the two sisters described him as not being human in appearance. Jane actually gave a description to the local magistrates when she reported the attack. She stated that her attacker's face was hideous. He had eyes like balls of fire. Those were her words. She said that his hands had great claws, and he vomited blue and white flames. So this was sworn testimony made by Jane Alsop to a magistrate. What is even stranger is that this description was repeated again and again over the next few years by people who claimed to have encountered the Spring-Heeled Jack apparition. Always the devil-like appearance, the eyes of hell, and most of all, the incredible leaps. Whenever anyone attempted to capture Jack, he would always simply jump out of reach and disappear into the night with superhuman bounds. Just a few days after the attack on Jane Alsop, another attack on another young woman took place in a different part of London. Lucy Scales was the name of the young lady who was walking with her sister when a shadowy figure jumped out and allegedly blew flames into Lucy's face, which caused her to have some kind of seizure and temporarily blinded her. Both of these attacks were well publicised in the press and received a great deal of attention, which of course stoked the fires of Spring-Heeled Jack's legend as some kind of devil. And in the subsequent years, further sightings of Jack were reported not just in London, but now all across England. These sightings continued into the 1840s, the 1850s, into the 1860s. In 1872, sightings of Jack were even reported by soldiers at an army camp, Aldershot Garrison's North Camp, where a sentry reported encountering an inhuman, man-like creature who slapped his face and jumped on top of his sentry box. The soldiers tried to capture the figure, and they even opened fire. But Jack just laughed and leapt away into the night. In 1877, a group of civilians also reportedly fired shots at Jack in Lincoln when he appeared one night on the town streets. But once again, Jack just laughed and melted away. Sightings of Jack continued towards the end of the 19th century, although more sporadically and mainly in the north of the country. He was reportedly last seen in 1904 in the Everton district of Liverpool, 67 years after the first rumours about him began to circulate. In Liverpool in 1904, Jack apparently started a panic one night, bounding up and down the streets, jumping from the street to the rooftops and back again. A number of brave individuals tried to confront him and corner him, but apparently he simply disappeared into the darkness from where he came. Most accounts state that this was the last time Jack was to be seen. However, there have been a handful of sightings in more recent times. In 1986, a salesman in Herefordshire reported seeing Jack leaping high hedgerows in great bounds. And as recently as 2012, a family on their way to Ewell reported a man leaping into the air at impossible heights. So, is Jack still around? And will he be seen again? Hope you enjoyed this strange story. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks very much.